I'm surprised the characters haven't fucking died by like thrown off the top of that cage like 7 times.
I feel like every WWE character is just I'm in a building. I fell to the floor. I fell to the fucking floor. What the fuck? Spider-Man Kilometers Morales, presented by Sony Entertainment, sometimes, is a game where you play as Miles Morales and you're trying to stop the 2022 Saints Row gang from destroying the Iron Mans. I really can't think of a name. This game is a sequel, spin-off, pre-sequel to Spider-Man 2? Let's just call it something that Sony kind of shout out so they can put games on their overpriced, underutilized, understocked console. By the way, yeah, I still don't have one, so I'll be recording on the PS4 version of this game, which is obviously the 100% most superior version of this game. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the story, there will be a huge spoiler warning. Is everyone okay? Alright, cool. So a year after Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles has been inducted underneath Peter's wing to become the next Spider-Man. But Peter's away on holiday, and it's up to Miles to take care of the city. After chasing down Rhino in honestly one of the coolest sequences in the game, Miles recently discovered that his old childhood best friend Finn, who wasn't brought up in the last game at all, is a leader of this gang called the Underground. Their goal is to shut down this project, which is marketed to help the city, but after long exposure to it, Finn's older brother Rick was getting incredibly sick by it. He was the head of the project and he knew what danger it caused, but when he tried to shut it down, Roxxon basically killed him, which in return started the Underground. And Miles, being stuck in the middle of this, is willing to stop it. Notice that I said willing because the first time he tried to help, he blew up an entire bridge. Luckily no one died, but Jesus Christ, Miles. And that's not the only thing he does. He ends up messing up things with Finn, lost the evidence to do in Roxxon. Hell, the beginning of the game, that cool Rhino chase I was talking about, that was caused by him. But besides these many mistakes, Miles is actually a lot more interesting than Peter. Like, Peter's my guy in most mediums, but in this game, they seem to like hook me on Miles. Like, we saw his character arc in the last game where he was trying to be more independent, and now seeing that he's an actual full-blown Spider-Man, it's actually kinda sweet. Hell, after the entirety of Marvel's Spider-Man trying to sneak around doing those fuck shit stealth missions, he's able to fight for himself now, and I can't wait to see what he does in the sequels. But that's kinda the only like positive I can give to the characters. Fucking Rhino's there just to say hello and then dip and say hello and then dip and then die. Peter barely shows up, and Krieger is probably the worst bad guy in this series so far. Like, he does nothing, he says shit and then dips, and then he gets arrested. Like, at least Norman Osborn in the last game had plot relevance. Krieger can literally be replaced with any other character and nothing would change. And Tinkerer, Finn? Listen, I know what they're trying to go for, like, this Spider-Man villain wouldn't really make sense in any other context, but why not just do an Arkham Knight approach and just call her, like, the Underground, or, like, Black Market or something like that? Because the only similarities both Finn and the original Tinkerer has is that they both use technology. The sentence ended. Oh, and her character? She just comes off as very perfect. Not in perfect as she is the best character in this game and any other Spider-Man character will fall before it. No, she literally is portrayed as this perfect person. And we're never shown that. The only time we're ever shown that was in a flashback scene right before the final boss. Like, really? At that point we already hate her, so why not do it like at the start of the game where it'll make sense? Or just like add a different villain. Hell, maybe Electro could be the main villain, or how about another Spider-Man enemy like Sandman? Hell, Roxxon is already a good enough enemy, so they could have just did that, but no! And if there's one character I think should have got much more screen time than all the other characters, it would have to be Prowler. As many Spider-Man fans know, Prowler in the original comic book line wasn't the supportive uncle like he was in Spider-Verse. He was actually extremely abusive and horrible to Miles. Especially when he found out that Miles was Spider-Man, he tried to kill him knowing that he was. But I'm happy they didn't go down that route in this game. Hell, they actually mixed both of them. This version of Prowler has already been Prowler, and has already been called out on his bad behavior, and he was told to stay away from his family, when he was just getting his life back together. Like, he got himself a job, he's working hard, he's no longer relying on stealing or anything like that. Around the same time, he started getting his life back up. He discovered that his nephew is Spider-Man. And instead of him trying to get revenge on Peter by killing Miles, he tries to help Miles and teach him that every single fight he's going to get into is not going to end the same way that he expects. And so he should pick his fights. Just for Miles to say, should I just stand there and watch people get hurt? That is brilliant storytelling, and I wish they expand upon that more. But at this point, the game already has 2 other villains, and they kind of need to make room. So if Prowler ever returns in Spider-Man 2, or even Spider-Man 3 if that game does well, I hope they expand upon this relationship more. But that's enough talking about the story and characters. Let's start talking about the gameplay. Is the gameplay good? Is the gameplay bad? Or is it made by Sony Entertainment? The game feels fantastic. It's similar to the previous game with the way you're just dipping all around the place, but you feel like Miles the same way you feel like Peter in this game. The overall combat is pretty much the exact same things, but with different animations to show how Miles is very inexperienced compared to Peter. And he also has unique abilities exclusive to him. Just like in the comics, he's able to use electromagnetic powers. Just like a spider. Which is weird. Like, this is not just extend to the game itself, it's just extend to comics. Like, why does he have electromagnetic powers? Is it explained? No, probably not. I've never seen that scene in Spider-Verse where it was like, oh, Electro put his semen in it or some shit. But besides the questionable powers Miles has, he feels so goddamn powerful. Like, if you're a tactical player who likes to take out their enemies one by one, or you're just unga bunga, I must throw shit at the wall person, you will have one hell of a time playing as Miles. But I do think the price point is really ridiculous. Like €70 for a game that reuses assets. Hell, I've seen full-on remakes cost less than this. Like, if your game is reusing assets, it should cost $40 at the very least. So I suggest waiting until PlayStation decides to sell it, or probably buy it second hand. Despite reusing assets and questionable character decisions along with the PS4 version not running as well, I will give the game a solid 8 out of 10. Now yes, while there's been a lot of jarring moments when it comes to the characters, but with great moments with Miles, fun gameplay, great bosses, and great sections where you're just running after the bosses, it's hard to give this game anything below a 7. But what about you? Do you think Miles Morales is a perfect masterpiece, or do you think it doesn't hold up to the original? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, I'll see you all later.
First, you gotta take the oath.
Oh. Okay.
I promise to do everything in my power to protect this city.
I promise.
That's it?
That oath a real thing.
Totally. Definitely didn't just make it up. See you in a few weeks, Spider-Man. New York's only Spider-Man.
I'm New York's only Spider-Man.
We keep on going until we